Okay, so let's keep talking about how to create different layouts in Dreamweaver by looking at a couple more examples. So we've had these basic examples where we kind of did two things floated, one to the left, one to the right, but the rest of the stuff pretty much was the full width of the parent wrapper container. In this particular example, we had a sidebar with three different kind of div tags or sections in it, and that sidebar was floated left. And then we had a main content area that included two other sections in it, but that whole entire area was floated to the right. So let's look at a couple more examples in this particular one. And this one is pretty much the same example, but it can be really flexible. So this is kind of what we call like a 3-bucket layout. And this is where, well, in this example, you can see that we have the logo on the left and the nav on the right. So we have two items that we want to sit side by side. So this needs to float to the left, this needs to float to the right, and then the slider, because it has two floated elements above it, will need to clear both. But then we have the section down here where you actually have three different buckets that you want to all be the same size, and you want it all to sit, you know, side by side. So in this one, we're actually going to use a class called home buckets, and that's what we're going to tell it to be 250, and it'll make all of them 250 pixels. And then we're going to tell them all to float to the left. So this one will go to the left. This one will go as far to the left as it can, and it can't go that far because there's this to the left. And then same thing with this one. It'll go as far to the left as it can. So this will create this kind of 3-bucket layout. And then we'll have to clear this one in order to make it sit underneath it. So it's a little bit more complicated because you have this section up here with 2 floats, and then you have this section down here with 3 floats. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out is this is just a temporary background, just so you can see that in the wrapper, this one is a solid color wrapper, and whether it's white or some other color, this kind of just shows you that that white color for the background is going to apply in 3 different places, but this background is the actual body background of your site. Now over here, the stripes are also in the body tag, but as you can see, the wrapper is still there, and that makes it sit 960 and in the center, but you don't see any color in the wrapper, and that gives this kind of a more free-floating appearance, but keeps it still within 960 and aligned. Now down here is kind of the same example, except for it uses something called sections, and those sections don't have a width. They just actually sit underneath each container. And those sections allow you to, they allow you to sort of have a more vertical and less, it's still a boxy layout, but it's not necessarily like this 960 looking sitting in the middle. It feels like it fills the screen a lot more. And the other cool thing with this is that I can have a pattern background in this section, and I can have one in this section, and I can have a textured background in this section. So where before our background either came from our wrapper or the body, or in this instance we get both, we can actually really do unique things with each section. So in this particular video, we are going to look at how to create this, and then it'll be easy to create this because it's just a matter of taking the wrapper color out. So we always work from the top down and left to right. So we're going to create a header that surrounds both of these. And in that header, we're going to have a div for logo and then the nav structure. Then we're going to create a div for the slider, and then a div that contains all 3 of these boxes. And then each one of these will be their own div tag. And then we have a testimonial section and a footer. So let's go ahead and work on the structure of that. Okay, so again, when I work on structure, I like to work in here so that I can make sure that I'm getting it correct. So let's go to the Insert tab, and we always start with the wrapper. So I'll click Div, and for some reason, because I'm on a Mac, you can enter the ID here, but because I'm on a Mac, I have to click OK, and come in here and do ID of wrapper. Now this is going to surround all the content in here, so I don't necessarily need any of that text. And then again, the comment, and wrapper. Okay, so the first thing we have in the wrapper is the header. And the header is going to contain the logo and the nav. So let's go to this section over here and find header. And it's the only header I have on my page, so I don't necessarily need to do an ID. And I can get rid of that content, And I don't like when these things don't line up. All right, so now in here I can create a div because I don't have a section called logo. So in the ID I can type logo. Again, if you're in a Mac, you can come in here and type ID equals logo. So I don't like when it says new div. So I'll just go ahead and put hashtag logo. And then we're going to do our nav, wherever the heck it is. Where is it? Navigation. There we go. And click OK. And there's our nav. So underneath the header, we're going to have a div for slider. So, all right. And again, we're going to have to do ID equals slider. And change this, because if you don't change this on the other side, you won't be able to really see what's what. And then underneath the slider, we're going to have a div, and we can actually call this a section because a section contains multiple elements. So we can call this 3 boxes. And I think I just put that. Yep. Okay, ID equals 3 boxes. And then do 3 boxes. And I should put a hashtag on there so we can see that. Okay, so actually I'm going to take that out because it's going to have 3 boxes in it. So now I need to add those 3 boxes. So div, come on, div ID equals products. So this might be my product box, but it's going to be a class of home box. And that class is going to be on all of them because that's going to allow us to do common rules for all 3 of them. So I'm going to come in here and say content for hashtag product and class of, well, let's just do period because that's what class means, or the indicator for class home box. So we're going to copy this and then paste that in there and kind of get this to align properly. Okay, so this, instead of being a product, might be service. Oops, quote service. And this would be event. And I just messed that up. Okay. So these 3, the IDs make them unique. This is the box where I say something about an event. This is where I say something about a service. This is where I say something about a product. But they're all going to kind of be 250 and floated left. So we want to all keep them class home box, but we do want to give them all fresh IDs so that I can make 1 blue and 1 pink and 1 yellow, etc. So let's go ahead and do that. And then after that, we have a div for a testimonial. Why it does that, I have no clue, but we're going to do ID testimonial. Then come in here and do testimonial. And last but not least, add a footer. And it doesn't need an ID because it's a footer and we're not going to have any other footer on the page. So now when we come back over here, again, we're going to have to start adding some of the styles. So that was just creating the structure. So I'm going to stop it here and you can pause it and check that out and make sure yours is the same way. So I can, again, add all of these different HTML comments like end, section, hashtag 3 boxes. So that when that gets pretty big, I want to be able to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and say end header. Well, and obviously it kind of says end header there. So if I had multiple headers, then the comment would make sense. But usually it's with these divs. So I don't even know. If I had multiple sections, that's usually why I do put a comment here, because this might be a section called 3 boxes, but then I might have a section later called testimonials and then have multiple testimonials. Thankfully, we're only going to have 1 testimonial here, but there you go. So pause this, check out this structure, create it on your own HTML. Make sure that you've saved this HTML into a folder, the root folder, that you've defined the site in Dreamweaver, and that you have attached a CSS file. So please check out the other tutorial videos if you're not sure how to do this. But as you can see with mine, I now have styles layout2.css that's attached. You can name it whatever you want, and they are all in the same root folder so that the file paths will work.